Hi guys, I'm Kasia. Welcome to the channel and welcome to our coffee times to discuss horror. And today I'm here to talk to you about horror movies that came out in 2024.
It's coffee time!
So this year I have not been uploading as many horror movie reviews as I wanted, but I haven't had much time to go into detail into every single one that I have watched this year, but I wanted to make this video to kind of give you a wrap up on the last horror movies that I have watched that have just came out in 2024. So 2024 didn't exactly start really great when it comes to horror movie releases. The couple of first movies that were released this year were a no-no for me, like Night Swim and Imaginary. No thank you. So, finally I have watched a couple of movies that I thought were decent or even great. So I'm here to talk to you about the last movies that I have watched, and I'm gonna be ranking them from worst to best. We do have to talk about The Strangers Chapter 1. I was going to do a review on this movie, but I decided not to do it because it would have turned into a rant, and I don't think anybody needs that. I went into the movie, to be fair, with an open mind, but I ended up being quite disappointed by it. After their car breaks down in an eerie small town, a young couple is forced to spend their night in a remote cabin. Panic ensues as they are terrorized by three masked strangers who strike with no mercy and seemingly no motive. This was announced as a separate trilogy, from the other two movies that are already out, The Strangers and The Strangers Prey at Night. But after I watched the movie, I realized that they were trying almost to remake the first movie from 2008, but the atmosphere, the characters, they just didn't work, so they ended up doing something that, in my opinion, just didn't work. The characters were not great. The characters was one of my biggest issues with this film. The main couple that are supposed to be, thinking about marriage and living together and they're happy, they had zero chemistry, absolutely nada. And it was really hard for me to see them as a couple. And on top of that, the decisions that they were making, they were not just dumb, they were illogical. They were so just unbelievable that I was thinking all the time, this is a movie. Like, I could not believe the characters, I could not believe the things that they were doing, and it was just a mess galore. I don't want to go into a rant with this movie, but honestly, I felt like there was a lot of jump scares that were not great, they were expected, there were a lot of tropes, horror tropes everywhere, and this is a movie that it's supposed to be really atmospheric. There's supposed to be a lot of emphasis put on the movie being unsettling because it is still, in a way, a home invasion story. Instead of being in your own house, you are in a bed and breakfast, but still strangers are coming, knocking at your door, and they want to get to you. They tried to recreate the first movie in a way, but they failed at recreating it and bringing the same atmosphere and this kind of weird feeling that you had with the first one that left you extremely unsettled. And they also didn't bring anything new to the table, so I also hated the ending, hated that last scene. I hate when they do that in movies, and yeah, not a big fan. I know this is already a trilogy and the next movies are going to come out relatively soon. I think the second one is planned to the end of the year and the third one is supposed to come in 2025, so they want to quickly do the trilogy, and we shall see. I'm still gonna give it a chance to the second one, but I was quite frustrated with this one while I was in the cinema, and it's definitely not the best. Let's talk about Taro. So Taro is a movie that I kind of knew going into it that this was just going to be a popcorn slasher movie kind of thing, and I just went into it also again with an open mind, just hoping to have fun, and to be honest, at the end of the day, I did have fun. Friends unwillingly unleash an unspeakable evil trapped within a cursed deck of tarot cards. One by one, they come face to face with fate, racing against death to escape the future foretold in their readings. So we follow a group of friends that have rented a house to celebrate a birthday, so they're having fun, they're drinking, and they find this weird room in the house that has a lot of weird artifacts, and they find this tarot deck, and because one of them knows how to read zodiac charts, they decide to do readings but using the tarot cards, and every reading has a purpose. So everything that a character is being told through the cards is going to be the way that they are going to be threatened later on in the movie and the way that they would potentially be killed. So it's fun. It did feel like a late 90s, early 2000s kind of movie, almost like Final Destination kind of vibe. And honestly, if I take it as that, as what it was fun. But of course, you can expect all the tropes, all the one-liners, the typical cookie-cutter characters, you know, very stereotypical. They all have their own purpose in the movie, and you already can tell from the very beginning. But, you know, like I said, it didn't bother me. There is also enough time spent with the characters at the beginning that allows you to create a little bit of a bond with them. Sometimes in this type of movies, the characters are thrown into the danger, thrown into the action way before you can relate to them, so at least you get to know them a little bit and you learn a little bit about their lives. The death scenes were fun. I love to see the cards come to life. Some people might not be a fan of certain CGI effects, but you know, I didn't mind, to be honest. I just wish the deaths would have been bloodier and gorier because this movie is a PG-13, so there are some things that happen off camera, which might be, you know, something that you don't enjoy. But at the end of the day, I have to give it to them because they knew what they had in their hands. They didn't try to be a serious movie. They knew what they were doing, and at the end of the day, it was entertaining. Humane. Humane is a movie that I found randomly. I had never heard anybody talking about it, and I read what the movie was about, and I decided to watch it. And it's also the feature film debut from Caitlin Cronenberg, which is David Cronenberg's daughter. So I was excited to see what kind of movie she was gonna make. A global environmental collapse forces world leaders to take extreme measures to reduce Earth's population. The script starts with a clever premise, imagining a world in which climate change and overpopulation have led to forced euthanasia. The scariest part about this movie is how realistic it is, because it's something that could potentially happen. It's not something that is completely science fiction, in my opinion. So basically, we are overpopulated and we need to reduce the population in the world. So every country needs to make sacrifices to reduce the population that it has. So the question comes of who should be spared. And sometimes they offer you rewards. For example, if you're a family and you're really poor and you want a good future for your kids, you might choose to eliminate yourself so that your kids can have a better future. One of my criticisms about this movie is that the whole plot was based mostly on one single family, and the majority of the film takes place in the family house, and so you don't get to see the whole effect in the world that this new world order has. And I would have loved to see more of the global effect that this had. This movie is a great conversation starter because there are many things that could be discussed here about, you know, social status and who should be sacrificed. As an audience, you also get to appreciate your privileges, and also you get to see how biased some of these decisions are. It's kind of like a dystopian sci-fi story, and about also the corruption in the government and sacrifices that need to be made. It's also about greed, but also we have a lot of blood and gore and violence, especially towards the end. And even though it was not a perfect movie at all, I think it is a great movie to watch because it's gonna get you thinking. Next on our list are two movies that I watched back to back, and they both have the same thing in common, and that is our lovely friends spiders. I'm talking about Infested and Sting. These are two movies that I watched back to back, not even on purpose, it just happened. And I'm here to talk to you about them because they are very different, but I enjoyed both for different reasons. Let's start talking about Sting, which is a movie about spiders, but this one goes a little bit more on the fantastical sci-fi route. Charlotte is a rebellious 12-year-old girl who finds a tiny spider in her rundown apartment building. She keeps it in a jar, but it soon starts to grow at a monstrous rate and develops an insatiable appetite for blood. As her neighbors begin to disappear, Charlotte and her family find themselves in a desperate fight for their lives against a ravenous arachnid with a taste for human flesh. So obviously in this movie we have a tiny spider that starts to grow very rapidly, and it is running free in this apartment building, picking the victims. And so in the core of the movie, we also have a family drama, which is a part that I think maybe not everyone is going to be on board with, but you know, I didn't mind to see that family dynamic. I think it's something that has been done a lot in this type of movies as well, but I did enjoy the humor that the movie had as well, which was kind of like bleak at times, but I think for me, my opinion, it worked. And even though the characters did feel like stock characters, you know, like I said, it's things we've seen and done before, I really enjoyed the gore, the special effects. I loved the juices and everything involving the spider and all of it. I would say if you are really scared of spiders, you know, proceed with caution. But in this particular movie, it's not about your regular spider. This is a very specific spider that is not really from Earth, and so it is a bit more fantastical. I did think the movie was fun and entertaining because it didn't take itself seriously and it knew what it wanted to be, and there's a lot of humor and satire, as I've mentioned before, and I think here the balance between the horror and the fun kind of worked. I also really enjoy the camera work in the confined kind of one location. I think they did a really good job with the camera angles and everything to keep it entertaining, keep it fresh, and keep the movie, you know, like surprising and keep the tension alive and the atmosphere, even though the whole movie is just recorded in one single building. And the same goes for our next movie, Infested. The majority of the movie takes place just in one building. Passionate about exotic animals, Caleb brings a venomous spider home, but it accidentally slips away. Soon, residents of the apartment building are battling an army of deadly, rapidly reproducing spiders. So we follow a young man named Caleb, and he has a lot of different insects and stuff inside of his apartment, which his sister absolutely hates. And one day at a store, he finds this weird spider that comes from a different country. He falls in love with it. It's a teeny tiny spider. He decides to adopt the spider and bring her home. But one day, the spider is gone, is missing. And she's still in the building though, and she's reproducing at a very fast pace, so we're gonna have a lot of spiders. And this movie, I believe, they did use real spiders for some sequences, so there are real spiders in the movie, and I think specifically this one, not so much Sting, but this one, if you have arachnophobia, absolutely not. Do not watch this movie because you're not gonna make it. This movie it's one of those that's really gonna give you the ick. I'm not scared of spiders. I don't mind them if they are in the house. I normally just escort them away. I just put them in a little thing and I just leave them outside. I always catch them myself. I'm not scared of them. I don't feel disgusted by them. But watching this movie, sometimes I was like, absolutely not. Like, hell no. I'm not doing that. So it is very good because it does give you that tension, that atmosphere, that ick when you see the spiders. So especially if you have arachnophobia, please don't watch it. So the spider has been leaving eggs everywhere in the building, and this is a type of spider that will actually bite you and kill you, and it's poisonous. And so we have this building of neighbors trying to make it out, but the police seals the building because they are aware of the infestation, so they decide to basically leave them inside with all of these spiders. It's quite intense because not only do the spiders reproduce at a very fast pace, but they attack sometimes in groups. They are poisonous, sometimes they get into your body and then they get out again, and it's nasty. We learn also of how the neighborhood has been mostly abandoned by the cops and local government because of their lower income status, adding a little social critique to the mix. Infested is a good made thriller that uses their misfit characters and show us that they can all, you know, go over their differences and kind of fight together in this claustrophobic horror story. Now let's talk about a movie that has been talked about a lot. Some people love it, some people hate it, and that is Late Night with the Devil. And I am one of those people that actually really enjoyed the film, but I can also see why this movie might not be for everyone. In 1977, a live television broadcast goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. They are trying to revive a television program, so they decide to invite guests that have kind of the same interest. We have a psychic that presents, you know, himself as such and does a demonstration. We have a debunker, someone that believes that psychics are just manipulators and like being a psychic is something that is a lie. And then we also have an interview with a girl that will come later on, but it's all kind of related. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I feel like this movie is a very slow burn and the payoff is at the very end, and I don't want to tell you anything that might spoil that epic ending for you. The movie had great production, and one of my favorite parts about this movie were the practical effects. The gory practical effects were fantastic. I absolutely loved those. I was there for it. And that's also possibly why I really like this movie. I really enjoy the style. I thought they were trying to do something different by basically, when you're watching the movie, is as if you were watching the broadcast from back in the day. And I think they did a really good job at doing that. The movie, however, might be a little bit underwhelming for a lot of people because I feel like, specifically because of the prologue, like what happens at the beginning, you kind of expect what's to come. And so I don't think this movie has a lot of like huge plot twists or twists and turns in the story. It's more just a movie that is entertaining as you watch it, slow burn, with a very satisfying and epic ending. I think you should give this one a chance. I think they did a really good job at creating a television show that looks like the 70s. I think the acting is great in the movie. I love, like I said, the practical effects. And I thought overall it was a great movie and quite unique, which is something not so easy to achieve nowadays. And so I do recommend you guys to give it a shot. Moving on to the next movie that has been one of my favorite ones that I have watched so far in 2024, and that is Abigail. And I'm gonna talk about this movie avoiding the major spoiler, which is even on the trailer, but in case somebody has not watched the trailer, I'm going to avoid that altogether because this is a movie that if you have not seen the trailer, just watch the movie. Just don't look for any information on the movie, just watch it. You're welcome. A group of would-be criminals kidnaps the 12-year-old daughter of a powerful underworld figure. Holding her to ransom in an isolated mansion, their plan starts to unravel when they discover their young captive is not what she seems to be. So honestly, one of my biggest issues with this movie was actually that they give away one of the big plot twists in the trailer. And I understand why they did that though. Like, I can see why they wanted to put it on the trailer to make people excited about it, because it's something that might drive people to watch the movie. But on the other hand, imagine if you go to watch the movie and you are unaware of that plot twist coming. Fantastic, you know? It's enough if you know there's something wrong with the kid. You don't have to tell exactly what's wrong with her, you know what I mean? But I can also see why they wanted to show it. We have a team of misfits that is just trying to make an extra buck because they really need the money, and the job seems very simple. They have to kidnap a 12-year-old girl whose family is rich, and then they're just gonna ask for ransom, and then they're gonna get paid. So they successfully kidnap the 12-year-old. They go to a mansion that it's very isolated, where they're supposed to keep her chained to a bed and then wait for the ransom to come in, and then they can release her. But when they get to the mansion, they realize that they are all trapped inside with this little girl, and she's not what she seems to be. I really enjoyed the characters in this one. I think they had a great dynamic, great like banter between them. I think every single character had a very specific personality, and it was really cool to see them and know more or less how they were going to act in certain situations. But also, these are characters that are criminals themselves, you know, these are people that you cannot trust, and so you are always wondering what they are hiding. This movie was so fun, so entertaining, and I think you can definitely tell that it's by the same minds that gave you Ready or Not. This is a campy horror thriller that had good makeup, tons of blood, and I also really enjoyed the ending. I know the ending is not for everybody, but I thought it was so cool and so cute. I really like the ending. So if you have not seen this movie yet, please just watch it. And last but not least, let's talk about one of my new favorite movies, and that is Love Lies Bleeding. The moment this movie was announced, I knew I was gonna watch it because it's the second film from Ross Glass that did Saint Maud. I really enjoyed Saint Maud. It's one of my favorite, I guess, religious horror movies by A24. And when I heard about her second movie, the cast, the story, I was like, I'm so in. And I went to watch this movie and I loved every single minute of the movie. Lou is a reclusive gym manager who falls hard for Jackie, an ambitious bodybuilder who's heading to Las Vegas to pursue her dream. Their love soon leads to violence as they get pulled deep into the web of Lou's criminal family. The movie is set in the prime of muscle heroes in the United States, which is 1989. And we have Jackie. She is a bodybuilder and she wants to compete and get money and, you know, make her life like that, you know, like by being a professional bodybuilder. And she lands in the small gym that Lou is running, and that's how they meet and that's how they fall in love. But unfortunately, their love story is just gonna turn violent because you're gonna get involved in some criminal stuff that they did not anticipate. And when I was watching this movie, I was loving it so much as well because it was so unexpected and things happened just out of the blue and you didn't even have time to react or recompose yourself. And it was just such a good noir film, almost pulpy. It was just so unexpected. At the beginning, this movie feels like it's very straightforward, but then things just start to get crazier and crazier by the minute. This movie was almost like a bad drug trip, like a drug trip gone wrong. And it is violent, it is gory, and you know, Ross Glass took the typical film noir, but it didn't turn this movie into your typical femme fatale thing that you would expect from this type of films. She gave it like a modern twist, and I don't know, I'm obsessed about this film. Can you tell? Just like Saint Maud, Love Lies Bleeding is about obsession. Saint Maud was about faith and the obsession with faith and religion. And this one is a movie about the obsession with things that make people feel powerful, like guns, for example, muscles, stuff like that. And I know not everybody's gonna love this ending. This ending is a little bit out there. Let me put it that way. But I definitely recommend you guys to check out this film because it was very different from everything else I have seen. Alright you guys, so those were the latest horror movies that I have watched and how I ranked them. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what is the best horror movie that you have seen this year so far. It doesn't have to be a new release, just something that you watched for the first time that you've really enjoyed. I'm really excited about all the new releases still to come, so I might try to make individual movie reviews for those, but we shall see. At least I just wanted to make this video to share my thoughts a little bit on some of the newest releases in case that you were on the fence or considering watching one of them. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for all your support, and I'll see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!